Hey there, welcome. Welcome back. If you enjoy the videos in the past, welcome for the first time. If you are joining me for the first time, lovely to have you here. I am Lotus, in case you have not met me before, with Art of Sacred Embodiment. And if you like the content, feel curious, inspired, supported by the content, then please subscribe to my channel and give the video a like. And with that, I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. And off we go. So we're going to talk about love today. We're going to talk about the evolution of love. This has been the downloads that I've been getting for a few years now about our evolution in general and our evolution in the department of capacity to love and different expressions of love. So as we are going through this awakening journey, ascension journey, becoming beings of light journey, moving into the new earth, the golden age, multidimensionality, all of these amazing magical things that are a part of humans' spiritual evolution, as well as the evolution of everything actually on our planet and in the whole galaxy. So this is, talk about unprecedented times. This is for sure unprecedented times in not just our lifetime, but, probably thousands and thousands of lifetimes where we're at in the cycle that we are in right now, which is all about moving into those highest frequencies of light, of love, and of life, all with the capital L's. So, phases and stages, because this is the way that I'm often taught as well. We know love to be a very personal experience. We love our parents, we love our children, we love our partners. We love our fur babies, right? We love, and I think that love, we use the word love a lot for a number of different expressions of affinity, of deep connection, of joy. I use love a lot. I am pretty much in love with everything most of the time. So we know love to be this personal experience between ourselves and others, or ways in which our heart is opened. So as we have been having a human experience moving towards a spiritual, remembering our spiritual beingness, we have needed that which is outside of us to open our hearts and activate love within us. And we could just give it a brief overview, summary of once we separated from Source, originally, that was our original separation wound. And then once we separated from the wholeness of our soul presence, that was another separation wound. And then when we separate from, the womb, when we're born, that's another separation wound. So what we know as humans is a lot of separation and grief that comes from that separation, and the overall probably deep abandonment wound. So what we've needed is external circumstances or people, places, things to activate that remembrance of deep love that we are, right? So when we fall in love, let's say for instance, right, with a new partner or our partner, or maybe we are falling in love with, like when I fell in love with my dog Moki, right? When we fall in love, we're falling in love with something that is outside of us. And so we project that that is the source of our love. When really it is just the reflection back that helps us to remember, that reminds us, that opens us up into the love that we are. And as we know, we fall in love, we have a child, we have the beings that we care for. Maybe we fall in love with passions, right, that move through us. We fall in love with nature, right? We fall in love, or we rise into love, right? So two different ways. You can see that there's probably a difference between each of those, and you can try them on for size. But when we fall in love or rise into love, because we have lived in a very polar world where you've got the positive and negative forces, right? The light and dark, the up, down, the good, bad, the right, wrong. And we have this full spectrum of emotional experience that rises and falls along that whole spectrum of duality and polarity. So falling in love, while it's amazing in the beginning, then normally what happens is we have to revisit that original wounding of separation, whichever experience is being triggered, right? And the deep loss that comes from that. So coupled with falling in love is the fear of losing love. From the human perspective that we have been living in for thousands of years. Now, over the last decade, what has become paramount is falling in love with ourselves. Why is that key, right? Because when we fall in love with ourselves, we're not going to be separated from the self anymore. Falling in love with ourselves is actually a path of returning to our wholeness and integrating those parts of ourselves that we have divided from, that we have separated from self based on judgment, fear, wounding, loss, all of that. And also because we have a tendency to live from the outside in rather than the inside out. So the more that we live with our happiness or our reality reflected back to us from the outside and governing our experience, then we're going to be more privy to being divided from ourselves. But when we live from the inside out, governed by our internal connection and our deep connection to soul and source, we cannot be separated from that. And so when we're falling into self-love, what ends up happening is we are cultivating and crafting a brand new reality inside ourselves. we are learning to open our heart and to find the faith and trust to know that it's safe to live with an open heart. So living with an open heart, and this doesn't mean that it doesn't have variations, and I've talked about this in the past. It doesn't mean that we're always wide open to all and every experience, but it means that we can choose. I choose love. I choose to rest into love. We can choose that consciously. I choose to honor and love myself. And when we do this, we are retraining all parts of our being. We're retraining our brain, the wiring of our nervous system. We're retraining our energetics. We're recalibrating ourselves. And so as we continue to strengthen that choice from choosing love of self and love of life, right? Even when things are happening that feel disappointing, that feel like they don't turn out the way that our human self wanted them to, we can still return to that space of, I choose to live in love anyway. When somebody disappoints us, I choose to know that love is what reigns true anyway. This doesn't mean that we are bypassing our experiences, but it means that once we have resolved and we've learned what we've needed to do, we have the power to come back into knowing that love is ultimately the truth, right? Everything is actually founded on love or a deep lack of love and seeking to restore love in shadowed, twisted ways or in light and loving ways. So where we're at now in our journey, in the collective, is we're being invited to step more fully into the Christed love. So that Christed love is what Christed beings, those beings who attained Christ consciousness, such as Jesus, Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, Saint Francis, the Buddha, many of the, the Hindu stories, right? The Christed beings like Krishna or Rama, right? So we see there are beings that have been referred to as Christed beings. They attained a level of consciousness that had a foundation in a higher frequency of love. And some of the qualities that entails are compassion, deep peace, that ability to be present and loving, to see that as the truth, no matter how dark or trying things get. There's a level of, with that compassion, there's this level of divine neutrality that comes into the mix here. It's a little bit different than divine love or Christed love, but there's an equanimity. So there is no more of the up and down of, being in love, being out of love. Instead, there is this space that we're resting on a new bandwidth. We're resting within a new state of being that is beyond the personality, but it is a part of our divine expression. So this state of being, when we start accessing more of the Christed love, what ends up feeling confusing is that because it's subtler in its experience, because its frequency is more refined, there isn't the ups and downs. It's not loud. There isn't attachment. Instead, there's open spaciousness that whatever is meant to come, comes, whatever is meant to go, goes. And that does not change the divine state of Christed love. There isn't judgment. We're at that point, we're more so out of the storylines. We're starting to move into a 5D experience, a fifth dimensional consciousness that does not have the duality and polarity of ups and downs and drama and trauma. Instead, it's more even keel. Now, when we first start to move into this place, because it has this subtlety and fineness to it, it can feel like there's a numbness, almost like there is a lack of emotion, a lack of feeling in the ways in which we have been accustomed to and conditioned into. And there can be just sort of like this emptiness, this deep, deep non-attachment. And in that deep, deep non-attachment, if this is new, it can mimic experiences that aren't actually the true experience that's being had, but we don't have words or reference points for it yet. So it can feel like a little depressed or a little unloving, right? It can be because we can't find the personal love experience, that falling in love way of living and operating. You know, it's a high, right? It's expansive when we're there, but then we drop into contraction. So the Christed experience is it's a continuous level of expansion and spaciousness that does not fit into the human boxes of feelings and emotions. And so at this place, what starts to happen is we become more coherent in our energy field. We start resonating more of a stabilized coherency, and that frequency begins to emanate out to support the coherence of the duality and polarity that is still active in the collective that is still experiencing personal love. Personal love, and then personal contraction. All right? So the next level of this, which my guides have been talking to me more about recently, is even more fascinating, because what they're doing is they're giving us the preview of how love is evolving us. How the reality and the truth of the love that we are is evolving us through our spiritual awakening process. And once we, as humans on this planet, begin to access a wider collective base of Christed love. Now, does this mean that we're going to land completely in our Christed beingness? I don't know. They're not saying that, right? This is a subtle unfolding process. But eventually, that is where we're heading. And when that happens, this Christed love and its neutrality is supporting us for the next expression of love, which is more of that galactic love. It is more of that connection of us with our galactic heritage and with our own galactic selves. So there becomes even a next level of greater neutrality, where love becomes this even greater deep steadiness and peace. My words for this are where everything then is held as a deep innate knowing of what is right and true. And we become these beings of operating from these very high levels of heart and soul connection without the wide scope of the up and down emotions that make the human. Okay? Because we are moving towards becoming a divine human. All of this is to say that we aren't going to be completely devoid of the very special and unique human qualities, which are emotion, which are feelings. And I've talked about this before, that there aren't very many galactic star families that we have who operate from the range of emotions. Well, even probably none that operate from the range of emotions that we operate from. But more of them operate from this wider neutrality of what they're saying to me is a galactic love. And we have a ways to go there, right? We have a ways of getting there. But we're in the developmental stages of that now. And this is part of what we're seeing as the living teachings that come through all of us who are on the path of divine union, who are choosing to step into this new kind of romantic love. Even that feels a little bit like a paradox, but to my understanding at this point, there's still a truth in that, and that romantic element is still that human element. But as we do the depth of our healing and trauma work, and the more that we come into wholeness, we don't have suffering in the same way. We don't operate in relationships from our wounds anymore. So we don't have the deep struggles in relationships. We don't have the deep pains and the fears in partnership anymore. Instead, what we have is the downloading and the integrating of higher divine qualities that we look at from a human perspective as just being like, oh, airy-fairy idealism. Like we can't really access these high divine qualities, and yet that's exactly where we're going. And all of our healing and our deep inner work is supporting us to be able to raise our frequencies, expand our consciousness, purify our heart center, and embody our divinity. So, all of this, I believe, is super magical and kind of mind-blowing. And when you start to go through some of these phases and stages, part of why I talk about embodiment so much is so that you have a lived experience. So you have a reference point from a lived experience that may not make sense until you actually live it, until you actually experience it. And some of these things can be a little disheartening or a little alarming because we're hitting new thresholds where we have not been before. So as a way shower of embodiment, that's part of my purpose, right? Is to share, like, here's what the potential lived experience of these transformations might be. So don't worry, you're on track, right? This is what you want to be experiencing, right? You want to be expanded in more even keel. You want to be cultivating not only higher expressions of personal love, but impersonal love as well, and non-attachment, and feeling safe within your own beingness and doing that deep healing so that you aren't afraid to open your heart to love. Because the more safe that we feel, the more that we aren't triggered into our wounding because we heal that, the more we're able and ready and we desire to open and to stay open and to learn what that's like to live from the tenderness and our innocence and the softness and the presence of love, and to receive it without being afraid it's going to be taken away from us. So this is the two stages that we're in right now, right? Is we're growing into self-love more and more, right? So there's a collective of you that are doing that have already done a lot of the healing, and now you're turning inward. You're coming home to you, where you're going to be deeply held from within. And then there's another collective that's coming into the Christed divine love frequencies. We're tapping, or we're putting our toe in that water, and we're saying yes, that this is what we're choosing. As our heart continues to purify and expand and recognize that love doesn't need to come from outside of us. It is always who we've been inside us. So I'm going to end with that. And take a moment and reflect. Where are you landing, right, in these developmental stages? And And I hope that's helpful, right? I hope that kind of shining this light gives you where we're going, where we've been, and then where you are present time, and perhaps some foreshadowing of what to be expecting as we move forward. So that is it. And sessions are open. I've opened up new sessions, and if this is something that you are wanting to explore for yourself, definitely reach out to me on my website, lotuslindley.net, and I will see you again. Many blessings and much love.